Te ao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. Nau mai hara mai ki tēnei hui ngā, ko Ariana Paula hau, ko au te manukura o Amotai. It's wonderful to be here on this second day, I understand, of the sessions with the New Zealand Defence Force, and my name is Ariana. I just wanted to kind of, before I launch into my kōrero this morning, talking about Māori and Pacifica businesses in the digital tech space, I just wanted to share a little bit of a connection with, in my experience of growing up around some of the Air Force bases around New Zealand, Aotearoa. So when I was about 10 years old, I was able to go over to Singapore, Sembawang and Tinga. My dad was in the Air Force at the time, and that was kind of my very first learnings and around being in a community or a whānau setting like the Defence Force. At the age of 12, I was learning how to drive on the Ohakea airstrip, and I remember my dad getting a phone call as from one of the local police from around Bulls. And he said to my dad, he said, "Frank, if your daughter's going to drive across the Ohakea bridge, can you make sure that she goes around the back way?" And the reason why I was driving across the bridge was to go and pick my dad up from the mess. So I'm very familiar with some of these places around New Zealand where it brings back really great memories for me. So I just wanted to make that connection. My name is Ariana Paul. I am the manukura or general manager for Amotai. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Amotai very soon. I thought I'd do some scene setting around digital technology, and a lot of the stuff that I'm going to the facts that I'm going to bring up right now are probably facts that you already know. Digital technology in the last 20 years has played a pivotal role for our economy here in New Zealand, and more pivotal in the last, I'd say, 10 months. Post-COVID, we recognise that digital technology is one of the main sectors that is going to thrust us together into the future. We saw that technology over the COVID period, how important it was for us to keep connected. In 2019, the New Zealand economy in the digital technology sector produced or contributed 6.5 billion to the economy, to the GDP. And in 2019, there were 13,000 digital technology companies throughout New Zealand, but only 75% of those companies actually had no employees. That's what I wanted to say. There were no employees, meaning they were very, very small sole trader businesses. There were about 75,000 people across different roles throughout New Zealand where digital technology has been embedded. So my point to open us up into this kōrero this morning is that the importance of digital technology, not only to the New Zealand Defence Force, but also to Aotearoa, has been and will continue to be in a really important sector in our economy. Now, I'm going to introduce Amotai, and I'm going to share with you what Amotai have been doing and who Amotai are and what we hope to be doing for the future, in particular for Māori and Pacifica. Now, those numbers I shared with you about the organisations that are currently 13,000 organisations that have been growing in New Zealand as sole traders, 1 or 2 employees. These are the organisations that primarily we are working with, the smaller Māori and Pacifica businesses. And what we are trying to do with these businesses is actually give them opportunities through using our social procurement levers into areas of funding where ordinarily they may not have the opportunity to be. So Amotai, I'm going to make sure that we have some interactive things going on here. As I'm standing in this wonderful studio that's in front of you, I wanted to share with you about our journey. So, ko wai mātou, who are we? Who is Amotai? Amotai started about 2 years ago as He Waka Eke Noa, and we have been part of the Auckland Council since then. We identified that there are many disparities for Maori and Pacifica businesses across many activities. Health, education, and business was one of these areas. We recognised that Maori and Pacifica businesses weren't able to get a hand up into some of these big opportunities, in particular around government procurement, where we saw other players being offered that opportunity. And that's not to say that we weren't ready or businesses weren't capable of doing it. It's just to say that we probably didn't have people opening the doors for us. So Amotai started in the Southern Initiative as out in South Auckland, here in Tāmaki Makaurau. And we wanted to test out some of the big players. And the first player, of course, that we went to was our own, the Auckland Council. And we recognised that through the procurement of the Auckland Council, this could be one avenue that through social procurement, using the lever of supply diversity, that we could really have a go at cracking into the New Zealand economy for social procurement. It's not being done here yet very well. Over in other countries such as Australia, Canada, America, social procurement, supply diversity is BAU. But here in New Zealand, we recognise actually we're slow on the 8 ball and behind the 8 ball in uptake for supply diversity. So with the help and support of the Auckland Council, Amotai has been able to grow and branch out using its relationships with other organisations, other COOs like the Auckland Transport, Kāinga Ora, now Ministry of Education. And what we've been able to do after having 1,000 cups of teas with these organisations, building strong relationships so that they really, really understand the importance of supply diversity and the flow-on effect that this has for their organisations. So we set out 2 years ago here in Auckland Council with the support of the Southern Initiative, and we launched He Waka Eke Noa, which today we now know as Amotai. The actual whakatauki of He Waka Eke Noa means, and you may have heard of this, but it means actually to leave no one behind. And what we recognise, actually, there were a lot of, there's been a lot of buoyancy around the economy, and then, through different recessions that we would go through, we'd see the surge that would start to happen, but we'd also recognise that that Māori and Pacifica businesses were still being left behind. And we know this to be true after every recession there has ever been, that Indigenous people are always the most impacted by these types of activities that we've just come through. So we started in the south of Auckland. We are now, through the support of central government, being able to take Amotai out nationally. So we are working in the regions to help and support local governments in the regions, private businesses, iwi, and other organisations, help them to understand the importance of supply diversity. That is one of our objectives. And we've only been able to do this with the support of central government. So the going out into the regions it's very new for us, but we can see that there is a massive opportunities for Amotai to be able to connect buyers like NZDF with suppliers, our Māori and Pacifica businesses. Primarily, we have been working in the infrastructure and building construction space, but that has only been because those are where the opportunities have come to us. Now we see the digital technology as another opportunity where Amotai could be working closely with partners, with buyers, with clients in this particular space to bring through Māori and Pacifica businesses. So that's a little bit about who we are. My next screen that I'm sharing is is talking about the importance of social procurement. And see, social procurement is a disruptor in itself. It's a tool for disrupting social disparity. And where it started to get a real action and affirmative action was over in the United States during the civil rights movement. And what has happened since then, and since the 1960s, is that supply diversity has started to grow around the world. And slowly it's coming into Aotearoa. And we want to make sure that although now as the government procurement rules asks that we engage in a meaningful way with Māori and Pacifica businesses to remove social disparity, we want to be able to ensure that we're able to do this through the support of intermediaries such as Amotai. There are other intermediaries who are also doing this in Aotearoa because, to be honest, this is far too great for only one of us to be doing this. So I want to acknowledge all of the other organisations who are also encouraging supply diversity through social enterprise, through entrepreneurship, and you know, when we're working together towards having these greater changes in the economy for the social good of our people, it's always a good thing. So this next slide here is a quote that we have from one of our own Amotai businesses. So we know that supply diversity means that we've got a little bit of work to do. If we've only been using the same people to procure services and goods and works from, we feel comfortable with that. But we actually want you not to feel comfortable, but to understand that if you were to look beyond the traditional ways of procuring services, goods and works for your organisation, if you were to look beyond, you know, finding somebody just to complete a project for maybe the lowest price possible, and looked into the other impacts, environmental, employment, social, training and development, that you could be having through using the levers of procurement, I think you would find that actually not only is it a good thing to do, it's the right thing to do. So the quote on the screen is about why some of our Amotai businesses feel that they've been kind of left at the gate, and we want to be able to open the gate. And actually, you need to help us to open the gate from the inside, because that's the only way that we're going to make change. And Amotai can actually help NZDF to do that. So we want to be on the journey with you, and we want to be able to support you to do that as well. What is the main service that we provide? Well, apart from wanting to connect in with buyers, such as Kāinga Order, Ministry of Ed, Department of Conservation, Justice, all of the ministries, a whole gamut of government agencies, we want to connect with buyers who are ready and willing. And we have some really great examples of non-government agencies who are taking this up as well. And I want to bring in to the conversation this morning our relationship that we've been able to build with one of the prime construction and infrastructure companies, Downer and Hawkins. And through this relationship that we've been building, we can see that not only do they have a sort of a view to do this for one particular project and test and try it out, but they have it as a view throughout the entire organization, that throughout it's not just about the build, the verticals, or the infrastructure part, and bringing supply diversity into those points. It's actually building it throughout the whole entire organization. It starts at the top with leaders, but it also has to come through all of the other areas within an organization. And Downer, Hawkins have been really great partners, I'd like to call them, they are our all kōkiri partner, and have demonstrated just how quickly this can actually take place. And I know that this, you know, people may be thinking, wow, I'm sure they've had years and years to think about this and years to put it into place. But actually, it's been through just knowing what are some of the small things that we can start with first, and then how do we build this in so that it becomes part of our strategy, part of our everyday thinking, and not just left to a particular project. So I wanted to share with you that, yes, we have been working with buyers across government agencies. Kāinga Ora have been one of our, I'd like to say, they've been real influences for us. Kāinga Ora first started with us and asked us, what could we do in this deconstruction space? How could we find a Maori or Pacifica business to help them to solve some of their problems that they have with bowling and over buildings, and then they're left with all of this waste that they're then putting into landfills. So we approached one of our civils companies. We asked them to deeply think about another way of demolition. And it just so happened to be that the owner of this particular business had been in the Pacifics, had seen the devastation of some of the cyclones, and had a great idea. He came back to us and he said, if we could take off the materials in buildings that are no longer of use, that are no longer required, if we could deconstruct these buildings, we could then recycle and upcycle that material and send it off to the islands to help them rebuild. That was one of the very first projects that this particular company got into. And because of its success, they've been able to carry on and have a really, really strong working relationship with Kāinga Ora. So I just wanted to say that, you know, these are some of the changes. This organisation that are doing deconstruction now have a monopoly. We're talking with Kāinga Ora of how we can grow deconstruction throughout Aotearoa. If we're diverting, I think it was 130 tonne of waste from going into landfill, that is a win-win for everybody. And that's what working with diverse suppliers looks like. And that's kind of some of the cool things that you'll be able to see when you know, engage in these activities as well. Okay, so the other side, so we work with buyers and we also work with suppliers. And our work with the suppliers is not just to find them and, you know, come on, you know, get them to register with us. We also work through a certification process. So all of our buyers and suppliers, are at least 50% Maori or Pacifica owned businesses. So we go through a certification. If they are in the construction space, we look at their pre-quals, their pre-qualifications and what they have, to see whether or not any of the opportunities that are coming through from buyers, we can do a match. It's a bit like Tinder dating, right? We're kind of a little bit like that. You know, buyers come with us. They want a particular organisation to work with. We go out, have a look in our database, see who we've got. We choose who we think is the best match. We present those, but it is up to the suppliers to still win those. I don't want you to go away thinking that this is just a handout. It is not that at all. We are purely identifying best fit, and they being the suppliers still have to show that they have all of the things that a buyer would need. So they have to go through tender processes, RFPs. We will help, of course we will help both sides in that particular process, because we want this to be a really great example, a really great experience for others to see. in this particular process, I want to share with you another example. We've been working up in the north. As I said, we're now national. So we've branched out of Auckland. We're now working all across Aotearoa, and from the top, Te Tai Tokerau, all the way down into Te Ika Maui, into around the Gore and Invercargill areas. So that is now our opportunity that we have to go and find these amazing, incredible buyers and suppliers. And most recently up in Tai Tokerau, who we have been only just being able to form a relationship with, through hearing what Kāinga Ora have done with Amotai, they also felt that it could be something that they could dip their toes into. So they came asking for us to provide some suppliers for some quite considerable works up in the far north. Now, this has never happened before, where we have an opportunity for Maori construction businesses to be part of a tender process with the Ministry of Education. It's not happened. So we're really excited about these types of opportunities that are starting to spring up around the regions. So, you know, I'm not sure if the Tinder matching thing was kind of a good analogy, but hopefully you'll remember that next time you're wondering who can I find, what Māori and Pacifica businesses are there that we can can potentially bring into a tender. Oh, let's go and find Amotai. Okay. This young couple here on our screen are We Accounting. So they are one of our businesses that we have on our registered with us. So we have, even though primarily we've been working in the infrastructure, building and construction, we have a range of services that Amotai businesses have registered for us. This is an accounting firm that has registered with us. We have digital technology businesses, which I'll share with you soon. Catering, marketing, consultancies. We have a lot of varied, we're growing our pool of businesses. And it's what I really, really enjoy about this is that not only are we building the brown pages, we all know the white pages, the yellow pages, we're now building the brown pages of directories for Māori and Pacifica businesses. But within that network itself, I love seeing the ecosystem that these businesses are then now, have the opportunity to consider purchasing from other Māori and Pacifica businesses as well. For instance, this accounting, the We Accounting that I've just popped up on the screen here. So we, as mentioned, we lean in and support the capability and capacity building by partnering with other business support services such as Pacifica Business Trust, such as ATEED, such as Potama, and we recognize that that's not our lane. We would rather our businesses go to the experts to build their capability in these areas. And that's another part that we can help the supplier end to develop their own, in their own capability build. And this has been really exciting. We're now working with a national health and safety organization because we recognize that health and safety is one of the most biggest and most important pre-qualifications that a lot of organizations need to have, especially when working with government agencies. So on a national level, we're also looking at who we can partner with to provide our suppliers with capability build. And that's another exciting opportunity for Amotai. So here are some quick fun facts just to let you know that we, and what we've been doing, especially in the last 12 months. we have been able to award $45 million worth of contracts directly to Maori and Pacifica businesses through the tendering and winning of those contracts that I've just been speaking about. I think we're well beyond $45 million now, because as we've been reaching or working around the regions, with in particular in the provincial development units, we can see that there are millions and millions of dollars worth of opportunities for Māori and Pacifica businesses, and they have already started to make those connections. So we know that 45 million is probably a bit under now. We've probably gone way above that. At the moment, of our 430, I think we've got 436 Māori and Pacifica businesses. 74% of them are of Māori descent. And how do we know this? Well, we ask them, are you Māori or Pacifica? And they have to let us know which of the iwi they whakapapa to. So our hope is that when we're working with iwi, we can also share with iwi who their businesses are and where they are and what spread they have in the different sectors. So that's another part of our database that I'm really excited about, being able to go to iwi and say, look, we know that you've got some big projects happening over on the shore. Have you considered, using some of your own mana whenua businesses? And it may not be in building that, the vertical. It could be in other services that could help around that particular project. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to do this with iwi around the country. There are, and one of the things that we saw is that during the COVID period, and we're not out of it yet, but there were a lot of downsides for many, many people. But there were also there were some upsides to it. And what we saw through the government wanting to inject the recovery packages throughout the country, that this has really been a kind of an opportunity for Māori and Pacifica businesses to really grow into. And we want to see them grow so that the pipeline of, that's coming up with a lot of other projects in the future, that they're ready also to step up. We want to be able to take, say, tier two businesses to a point where they're in that prime or tier one, and they can then start to, either be mentored by other primes in those areas and to get exposure to projects that are coming through from the recovery packages that are started. Okay, I said that I would share some of the digital tech businesses that we currently have with us. Now, I didn't point out to you that pre-COVID, we had roughly about 100 businesses registered in Auckland. You'll remember from the previous slide that we now have 436-ish businesses, and that all happened during the COVID period. And that was without us going to do any recruitment. So because I was coming and doing this kōrero, I wanted to just have a look through our database to see where our tech businesses were, and just to because we haven't really been, there are no real opportunities yet for our tech businesses that we can, start to do that matching with. But we would really love to be able to understand what the strategy could be for procurement, and what does that look like to bring in supply diversity for the New Zealand Defence Force. So we're really hoping to have a conversation about that. Up here you'll see that roughly we've got about 19 businesses, and I've identified which, in the sort of small 1 to 10 employees, then I think 10 to 20, and then we have one really big DTech business called the Ancillary, which is actually here in Tāmaki, and they have 114 employees. So I guess what I'm saying is that whilst we don't have a lot on our register that we can show today, once we know where the opportunities are, that is, so I'm coming to the end of my presentation. I'm going to hand it back to Hema soon. But before I do go, I wanted to just leave some final remarks and comments, and hopefully some suggestions around what can be done in the space of social procurement, for not only for the New Zealand Defence Force to consider, but for all government agencies. It's now a requirement through the government procurement rules that the agencies start to look at opening up opportunities for Māori and Pasifika businesses. And if you've wondered how that can be done, Amotai is one of those organisations that can come in and help you to sort through that. But not only that, we can connect you with businesses like the Instillery, and you can connect with them with yourself. But it really is to understand if where the opportunities are, and for us to be able to then prepare our suppliers so that they can come in and do the work that is needed for you. We want to be able to consider how we could potentially partner to grow these small, tech businesses. As I mentioned, out of the 13,000 tech businesses across Aotearoa, 75% of them have no employees. And that's quite a large portion of that 13,000 when you're looking at the work that's needed. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, we are punching, we know this, above our weight. Out of our team of 5 million, we've had some extraordinary breakthroughs. Rocket Lab, Ian Taylor, Trade Me, Xero. We know we've got the goods and what it takes here in New Zealand to be on that global stage. We know that that we've got appetite. There is absolutely no lack of that. And we also know that across other projects that the New Zealand Defence Force are running, we have suppliers that are ready today that could come in and help with building and construction, the property projects that are being lined up. So I just wanted to say thank you for having me. It's been a real experience to come and to be part of this conversation. This is our first conversation that we're having with the Ministry New Zealand Defence Force. So I'm grateful to have been asked, Jenny and the team, to have us here, to have Amotai here. And yeah, Hema, I'm going to pass the time back to you.